order the meeting, special meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for Wednesday, August 25th. I don't have any changes to the agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda as printed?
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? First on our agenda is to consider emergency resolution number 13 for COVID-19 guidelines. We currently have 45 patients in the hospital with COVID and 12 in ICU. We had 13 in ICU yesterday, so that is down one, and we will certainly celebrate any small decreases. We saw an increase of 14 new positive cases today. Many of you heard the discussion of the board yesterday regarding the declaration of internal disaster by Baptist Memorial Hospital, North Mississippi, and you heard an update from Dr. Michael Corey, who is a physician serving in the emergency department at Baptist Memorial Hospital, and he stressed, as we all have been stressing, that we are at a very critical juncture. Following data and medical advice has proven to work. Our community is proof of that. It's what we've done for the past year and a half. We led the way in the state when we went into this pandemic in early 2020. We were the first to put mask mandates in place, and we were the first to remove them and have done both successfully. This board voted yesterday to require masks indoors when social distancing was not possible and outdoors when social distancing was not possible. Our city attorney, Pope Millett, has provided this in the form of a resolution to be considered today for adoption. Each of you have that in front of you, I believe. You'll note that there's been an option added by Alderman Heineman listed at number 11. And other than that, there aren't changes from what we discussed yesterday, but I'm just going to open the floor for discussion. You'll see that on page, page 4, if you want to go to that page, where it starts, section 1, that's where the details come in. So I will pass it to y'all for discussion. If this is the way you'd like to adopt it, would ask you to look at number 11, as it is different than we discussed yesterday. Alderman Heineman, do you want to address that?
Yesterday, after considering it, I thought, since this board is, and myself included, is attempting to push people toward vaccination, that we should allow businesses to, or any outdoor space, business, building, establishment, or any outdoor space who may come under the tenets of this resolution, to decide on their own whether or not they wish to open their space to those who are only vaccinated. And if they do so, then they will be exempt from the requirements under this resolution.
Okay, the way that I'm hearing you say that, I'm not sure it's the way that I'd understood it, so I just want to make sure that we're all clear. You're saying if they choose to open it only to people who are vaccinated. So are you saying that they could require one or the other as proof as they come through the door, was really what I was envisioning, that the business can determine that they will allow you to come in unmasked if you have proof of vaccination, or you have to wear a mask?
That's
Is that what you were thinking, or no?
That's fine.
Yeah, that's a lot better than what the original way that.
Well, I mean, so, but I'm hearing you say either or.
Well,
I'm good with whatever. I just want to make sure that we understand.
I want to encourage a business, if they wish to, open their doors to those who are can display proof of vaccination. If you open your doors to them, then they should be exempt. Now,
I gotcha.
When going in and showing a proof of vaccination, and at that point in time, when you get inside, enforcement becomes even more difficult in my mind when you allow those which are unvaccinated and those that are vaccinated and not masked for some, not masked for others. My intention was to allow businesses to open their doors only to those who can show proof of vaccination, and if they did that, then they are exempt from this mask mandate.
Okay. So then it is written the way that Alderman Heineman is listing, in any business, building, or other space open to the public in which all occupants of such business, building, or space are required to show proof of vaccination at the time of entry into such building. So it is
but
written that way, that just my interpretation was different.
So, I mean, any business could have done that already.
Sure.
They could have done any of it already.
But right now, they're not required to be masked. It will be at 4 o'clock today. Now, if they do that and require proof of vaccination, they will not have to require masking.
I think you guys did use it already. I remember reading correctly.
I believe the Lyric and Proud Larry's were included in an article recently that will be requiring proof of vaccination to attend shows.
Right.
I don't
What
think
about proof of positive antibody testing within the last 90 days? That's naturally vaccinated, and some of those people, due to their antibody levels, cannot be vaccinated. The number I'm hearing is antibody testing 250 and below, you should be vaccinated. 250 and above, you can be vaccinated. I have a friend that has a level of 2,500, and if he was vaccinated, he'd be going to the hospital. So to me, if you could show proof of a positive antibody test in the last 90 days, that's the same as being vaccinated.
Doctor, I can tell you yes or no.
I think the other thing that you're talking about here is it's really only gonna matter if there's any businesses out there that say you don't have to wear a mask I mean, the only way you're getting in here is if you're vaccinated, and I don't think we're gonna see a lot of that.
I get two venues, you've already said it. I mean,
But they said, they didn't say only vaccinated. The Lyric, I think, said within a negative COVID test within a certain period of time.
correct.
So, I mean, we're talking about vaccinated. I'm just saying, I agree with you, Mark, but I don't think it's gonna matter much, is all I'm saying.
All right. Start reading from section 1, see if there are any changes or additions that you would like to make before we adopt this. States that it would become effective at 4 o'clock today, August 25th. Every person in the city of Oxford shall wear a face covering the nose and mouth while inside a business or other building or space open to the public whenever it is not possible to maintain a minimum of 6 feet of social distancing from another person not in the same household, or when in outdoor public space whenever it is not possible to maintain a minimum of 6 feet of social distancing from another person not in the same household, except face coverings are not required for the following. Any changes to that? Okay, if not, then let's move to the numbered 1 through 11, just persons who cannot wear face covering due to a medical or behavioral condition, who have trouble breathing or incapacitated, or whose healthcare professional has recommended that a face covering not be worn. Person seeking to communicate with someone who is hearing impaired in a way that requires the mouth to be visible. Persons while eating or drinking. Persons in a building or engaged in an activity that utilizes or requires security, surveillance, or screening, and only during times when these persons are under security, surveillance, or screening. Persons engaged in swimming activities or other activities while in a swimming pool. Persons engaged in exercising in a fitness and exercise gym or other sports activity. I want to get y'all to give us some clarification on this. And prior to this resolution, this board had voted to allow people to play pickleball if they were vaccinated without a mask. There are a lot of other exercise activities going on at the Oxford Park Commission. The way that this resolution is worded, anyone doing exercise, so anyone playing basketball or doing whatever at the Oxford Park Commission would not be required to wear a mask. I was asked by the Oxford Park Commission, president of their board, to get clarification on exactly the way that y'all expect them to operate. So the way this reads, it would allow everyone to exercise with no mask on. Is that the desire of the board?
So, so I can understand this, so when we, couple of weeks ago, when we said everybody had to wear a mask in our buildings, that basically superseded this,
That's correct.
okay.
And yet this would undo that.
Yeah, this would.
That's what the mayor said, just so everybody knows.
I just want to make sure that everybody is, I spoke with Don Frugier, who is the Park Commission board president, and, you know, he explained they were willing to do it however this board votes to do it, but they want to be clear at the end of this meeting exactly how you want us to proceed. Would you like to leave it?
I'm against it, so I mean, I think people who are going to vote for it are the ones that need to talk about how they feel. I'm saying I'm gonna vote against the resolution in general, so I don't think.
More about putting voice in that you want, John. If you see, that's what I've asked you before, if you've got other suggestions, please bring them forward. It's hard for us to make full board decision if you're not gonna fill in the process.
Well, I'll just speak on the exercise portion. I think we ought to allow them to exercise without a mask on. It's hard to exercise with the mask on and get the benefit out of it and not have other health issues arise.
I agree.
So I
That's
think
what it says in the order.
Okay, so if we adopt it with that wording, then I just want everybody to understand that that means at the Park Commission, it will change what we previously have approved for that facility. Okay,
I think we just need to be in mask all the way across the board. Brian, I kind of was on board with the vaccination card, but after listening to everyone speak and reading, it's starting to get confusing. So if we just say mask all the way across the board, it'll cut except the pickleboard people. I think the pickleboard people are okay because we know who they are. They know who they are as far as contact tracing if it was to happen. But if you just open up the activity center to anyone that's exercising, I mean, you can't even contact trace with all the different people that come in and out. So I'm for just mask straight across the board, and so we don't get confused, and businesses and things like that don't get confused with who's supposed to be wearing a mask, who can have a vaccination card.
And I think there are large crowds after school at the activity center, so that's what they need guidance on, is when the kids from the school are all dropped off there to play basketball, are they allowed to play basketball with no masks on? They've been at school all day with masks on. So they want clarity from this board so that they're doing the right thing in their enforcement. And it's not left up to them to decide, wait a minute, is this what we're supposed to do or not?
Yeah, I think they should, like you said, maintain the mask for the time being, because we're going to adjust this again in the near future. But right now, we're trying to catch a hold of this virus. And if they just have to exercise, they probably go outside. But if they're on the inside, I feel they should have the mask on.
Okay, not really sure how to, Pope, give me some advice here on, I mean, it's not necessarily adopting a resolution as a whole if we start changing parts. So should we vote on these changes individually? Is someone who's voting against the resolution overall? I don't really know how to make those adjustments.
There's no right answer. I think if the board, the simple way to do it, there's nothing that keeps somebody from making a motion to keep something in or out of the resolution as written, whether it's Brian's initial vaccination card entry or these issues. Yes, y'all can move to include them or not include them in the resolution, and then vote for the resolution consistent with the prior motion.
With whatever their proposal is. Okay, I gotcha. Okay, persons while giving a speech, presentation, or performance for a broadcast or to an audience, persons actively providing or obtaining access to religious worship. And we are strongly encouraging masks to be worn in churches, but we are not requiring that. children, and I should say that we are not legally able to require that. We got a lot of questions yesterday in our office afterwards about why would you not require churches if you're requiring all businesses. The Supreme Court has ruled that is not something that we have the authority to do.
Hey, Mayor.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So, after what Poe just said, so does that mean that, like, say, number 6, persons engaged in exercise and fitness, does that mean unless somebody makes a motion and it passes, that will stay in there?
Yes, that is my understanding. Pope can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that the
Right.
proposal is as written here.
Okay.
So if someone says, I make a motion to approve 13 with the following changes, I'd like to remove that, or I'd like to,
So.
you see what I'm saying?
Right, so if Preston or Keisha wanted to say, I'll make a motion, they have to wear a mask when they're doing this, that's what it would take to keep that from being in here, okay?
That's correct.
Okay.
They would have to make a motion if I move that we accept this resolution with the following changes. Right?
Or we could go right
You
now.
could make a motion in the body of it, as y'all are going through now, or somebody then could make a motion to adopt the 13th resolution without, the
I'm sorry, I'm making this about as clear as mud, but it's,
Let's do any changes line by line,
okay.
so that we all have an input on that.
I agree.
That way, those of us that are voting against it,
Okay, well then let's back up.
you don't get a change that we don't,
Okay, let's back up. The first thing that is included is that everyone shall wear a face covering the nose and mouth while both inside and outside when social distancing cannot happen. Are we still, we're good to go there? Okay? Persons cannot wear a face covering due to a medical or behavioral condition, who have trouble breathing or incapacitated, or whose healthcare professionals recommended that a face covering not be worn. We good there? Persons seeking to communicate with someone who is hearing impaired in a way that requires the mouth to be visible. Persons while eating or drinking. Persons in a building or engaged in an activity that utilizes or requires security surveillance or screening, banking or financial institutions, and only during such times when these persons are under security surveillance or screening. Persons engaged in swimming activities or other activities while in a swimming pool. Persons engaged in exercising in fitness and exercise gyms or other sports activity.
Not good with that one.
Okay, so do you want to make a motion, Mr. Taylor?
Yes, I make a motion that it be, out of the,
All right, so Mr. Taylor's.
I couldn't hear what he, I couldn't hear what he
Mr. Taylor's motion is that number 6 be removed and that not be an exception to wearing face coverings. So if that is removed, then
How about-
people
how
would
about
have to wear.
pickleball?
So we need, he put that in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any conversation or question? All right,
What about, hold on,
Yeah.
what about adding
Except pickleball?
fitness or exercise gyms or other sports activities indoors where unable to socially distance? I mean, if I'm working out, if somebody's working out by themselves indoors, away from everybody else, that makes a difference to me than a group activity such as an aerobics class. And I don't even know if people do aerobics anymore or anything like that, but still, in a class setting, is a little different to me than an individual who's going out, or individuals who are playing basketball outside.
you know, last time, I think what made this more clear was that we had occupancy limits, you know what I mean? So we could dictate really what you're saying of, you know, individual gyms versus
Right.
team play and that kind of thing. I think that the confusion will come in for sure for OPC, when kids are dropped off for free play, or when a group gets there to walk on the track or what have you. I mean, they are individuals participating, it's not a group. I don't know how to make that one.
So should we
I think you either do them or you don't do them.
separate it from OPC and then other gyms that are businesses like YMCA or 24-hour fitness, or, because I think the question is, came from OPC, an activity center.
And I don't think they were jockeying for either position. They just wanted to be sure that we made clear what their role would be.
Most of your places, your social distancing, you're looking out I know it downtown is a lot. Those machines are, that's next person.
Well, we have a motion and a second right now to make an exception, to remove number 6.
As an exception to face.
Yes, so if you would like to remove number 6, then you vote yay with that motion. If you would like for number 6 to remain in this as it reads, you vote nay.
I call for the question.
All right, all those in favor?
Yes, yes.
All right, those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so number 6 will remain in as it reads. Persons while giving a speech, presentation, or performance for broadcast or to an audience. Persons actively providing or obtaining access to religious worship. Children under the age of 6 for ensuring proper use of face coverings by children 6 years age or older, and must ensure that face coverings do not pose a choking hazard and can be safely worn without obstructing a child's ability to breathe. Other settings where it is not practical or feasible to wear a face covering, including but not limited to when obtaining or rendering goods or services such as a receipt of dental services or would otherwise impede visibility to operate equipment. And then the last is number 11, that was added: in any business, building, or space open to the public in which all occupants of such business, building, or space are required to show proof of vaccination at the time of entry into such building.
Is there,
So we want it removed and just maxed across the board. A motion needs to be made. Is that right?
I'm sorry, Keisha, one more time.
If we want it to be removed and it's just masked across the board for everyone, a motion needs to be made, correct?
Well, it would be a motion to remove all of these exceptions, I guess. Is that what you're saying, or are you
just 11?
talking about number 11 specifically?
I'm talking about number 11.
Oh, okay. You're saying that you would like that removed. You don't want that proof of vaccination to be an option.
Correct. I just masked across the board. I think people will get confused.
Okay. So is that a motion to remove number 11?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to remove number 11, item 11.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any conversation or question? All right. So if you vote yay, you are voting yes to remove number 11. And if you would like number 11 to remain an option, you vote no. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, number 11 will stay in as an option for all occupants to show proof of vaccination at the time of entry into such building, and that would eliminate the mask requirement for that building. All right, additionally, all businesses and services must require the following face coverings and social distancing measures until further order of the mayor and board. Employees shall properly wear face coverings, ensuring the face covering covers the mouth and nose. All businesses shall monitor all points of entrance and prohibit entrance into the business by an individual over the age of 6 not wearing a face covering. Should we put or proof of vaccination there, Pope, since number 11 is there, or no?
Yes, and prohibit interest in business of any individual that not wearing face covering, well, unless the business satisfies number 11 above.
Okay,
Because it's not just if you
that's right.
check for it, you've got to satisfy the all patrons.
Okay. Management of the business must provide adequate supervision to ensure compliance of the face covering requirement, to include but not limited to door monitors to monitor the entrance of the public and floor supervision for employees. Prominent signs at every entrance informing customers they must stay 6 feet away from other customers who do not accompany them to the store. For businesses with existing public-to-public address systems, regular announcements instructing customers to stay 6 feet away from each other. markers on floors and signage measuring 6-foot intervals, and instructing people where to stand in checkout lanes or other lines. My question about those two things being listed, and a lot of the stores, I think, still have those markings on the ground. I don't think that probably changes anything, but we have said that masks are required when social distancing is not possible. So are we, to me, that seems redundant to say wear the mask and mark the 6-foot lines if they aren't already on the floor, but any thought on that?
I do think the city guidelines are still recommending social distancing as well as the mask. But I understand what you're.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want
Yeah,
people
and
to have to go to trouble again of
And that's
ordering
why-
stickers to go on the floor because we knew it was going to be a long.
I actually had that checked, but I had the next one, I know you hadn't got to it yet, was marked off and was gonna ask to have it removed. The employee specifically tasked to enforce. I mean, I think people have a hard enough time just getting employees to work now. And I think it's hard for us to ask somebody that's their only job, or that's part of their job.
John, you could just make a motion to remove 6 and 7.
I make a motion to remove 6 and 7.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, is there discussion or questions?
Just so I'm clear, John, is to remove the requiring business to put markers on the floors and requiring an actual employee tasked with nothing more than to make sure okay.
Yep, okay.
And I'm just gonna, whenever the final version of this is number 3 above, I'm gonna add the same language. Management of each business must provide adequate supervision to ensure compliance with face covering requirement, comma, or compliance with number 11 above, comma, to include, but not limited to door monitors. I mean, we do want, you can't just say, we only let in vaccinated people. You've got to have somebody who can say it, check it. I'll add those things in there.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to remove both number 6 and number 7. Any other comment before we vote? All right, all in favor of removing number 6 and number 7? Any opposed? All right. For businesses that utilize such technology, signage encouraging cashless purchases, online ordering and pickup, and use of self-service checkout stations. I don't know how many use that technology. You may have a thought on that? You good with it? All businesses, agencies, and units of government located within the city of Oxford shall continue to take all reasonable measures to ensure that such businesses, agencies, and units of government comply with the CDC and the Mississippi Department of Health recommendations and guidance, and shall implement appropriate safeguards to prevent the spread of infectious disease, including but not limited to mandating social distancing, sending home sick employees, and actively encouraging sick employees to stay home, separating and sending home employees who appear to have respiratory illness symptoms, emphasizing from home policies where possible, mandating respiratory etiquette and proper hand hygiene, maintaining clean and sanitary workplaces, cautioning employees regarding travel, and taking all such additional measures to prohibit and/or reduce the spread of infectious disease and especially COVID-19. The mayor may issue such other orders as are necessary for the protection of life and liberty. The mayor is also empowered and authorized to interpret the terms of this resolution and any executive order incorporated and referenced herein to the extent necessary to enforce this resolution. Penalties for violation of this adopted resolution shall be the same as those listed in our prior ordinance that was adopted in March of 2020. The city, in consultation with its emergency management coordinator, local healthcare professionals, and with consideration for national and state guidance, shall continuously monitor conditions to determine certain milestones, peaks, and trajectories for the presence of COVID-19 in the Oxford, Lafayette County, and local University of Mississippi communities, and shall change restrictions and requirements as they determine to be appropriate and circumstances presented to the city. Okay, to the extent any current executive order of the governor may issue which is more restrictive than this resolution, the executive order shall control, as it did for the past year and a half. The governor's executive order overrules ours. The intent of this resolution is not to be less restrictive than any current executive order in any way. We assume that if the governor does issue an order, that we are allowed to be stricter, not more lenient than any order that he would put out. So I believe that goes through.
Mayor, could I ask one more?
Of course.
I'm not really sure where it was on here. Maybe it was number 10, but yesterday in Alderman Addy's motion, we did the inside, but also outside. And I know at one time, I know we're not stuck to that we have to do this, but we acted like we weren't gonna do more than what the schools were, and they're not requiring, it's my understanding, they don't require outside for the kids to have masks and in a social setting. And so I would wonder if we could rethink that, the outside.
Where that would be, just if you are suggesting that consider that change, look back on page 4, the paragraph that introduces those 11 things.
Every person in the city of Oxford.
It says every person should wear face covering, et cetera, when in a building or space open to the public. And then it says, or when in an outdoor public space.
I got you.
You could just mark through that, or that could be your motion.
Yeah, I don't know if Alderman Addy would reconsider, but I'd like to make a motion that with that be stricken.
That what be stricken?
That in an outdoor space, whenever it's not possible to maintain 6 feet of social.
Okay, so on line 5, you would ask that, or when in an outdoor public space, whenever it is not possible to maintain a minimum of 6 feet of social distancing from another person not in the same household.
And that's stricken, and the except remains, everything else.
Right, so that would just remove the outdoor public space from the mask mandate. It would leave the indoor, inside a business or any public building.
Second.
All right, is there discussion regarding that or questions?
I have trouble identifying a public space where it's not possible to maintain social distancing, but that's just me.
You mean outdoor space?
Yeah, outdoor
that
space where it's not possible. I'm trying to think of a scenario where it would be an outdoor concert or anything like that. That's, again, I don't know of a place within our city limits that has outdoor seating where it would not be possible to socially distance.
I'll tell you places I see it happening. I'm not sure it's not possible, but M-Trade Park with baseball and soccer tournaments, where the seating is outdoors, football games, high school football games, the any OPC events, any, you know what I mean?
Sure.
There are, you're right.
But it's possible.
Is it possible? They could possibly social distance, yes.
I'm simply reading it as written, and it says when it's not
You're being the
possible.
lawyer.
Well, I'm a strict constructionist. It's not saying that you shall
I
do
gotcha.
this. It's saying, look, the mask mandate is there if it's not possible. So if we're having, for example, an actual seated event where the seats are outdoors and you've lined everybody up and you've made it impossible, you have to have a mask on. But otherwise, it's possible to socially distance at M-Trade Park. It's possible to do so. And I don't know what governance we have over high school football, meaning it's
We don't.
school.
Well, we said we weren't
So
doing
we're
schools. I'm just.
But in general, is it?
We got flag football though, and we got, you
Yeah.
know, and one thing in particular that, I'm not trying to be the wrench here, but one thing that I'm thinking of is this board approved a special event permit for a meal to be on September the 25th in front of City Hall with all of the parking blocked, and it to be when they're doing the memorial on the courthouse lawn and then doing a community meal seated at tables in front of City Hall. So those, I'm not trying to muddy the water, just either it's required outside or it's not required, you know, I don't know that we can.
Well, in that particular case, they could social distance during the memorial activity, and then the other one, they're going to be actively eating and drinking, which they don't have to have a mask on sitting at their table actively eating and drinking. And hopefully by September 25th, this mask mandate's gone anyway.
Just trying to make sure we don't have unintended consequences, Mark. We pass these things without thinking through some of those details, so I'm just throwing them out there.
I don't know of any place, I mean, even the university is not doing outdoors. I haven't heard of any place where they're actually requiring outdoors. On anything I've read, unless somebody point me in that direction. Have you heard of anybody? Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to remove when in an outdoor space, whenever it is not possible to maintain a minimum of 6 feet of social distancing from another person not in the same household. We have a motion and second, am I correct?
Yes.
A motion by Morgan, a second by Bailey. All right, any other discussion? All right, then I will call for the question. If you are in favor of removing that portion of this sentence, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
No.
Okay. It passes. Sorry, I had to count. Any other, we've gone through the end, so that was moving back. Is there anything else anybody wants to review before we?
Just take a look at first page. 7th paragraph, which starts August 24th, 2021. Just the wording, I'm trying to figure out what's being said there.
I left out the word informed. It was in there and then I changed it.
Okay.
It should say BMH North Mississippi inform the city's governing authorities that it's declaring an internal disaster in this hospital. I'll add that, well, assuming it passes. And if there is a motion to adopt the 13th resolution with the changes that have been accepted by vote and acclamation so far, it will include a reference to the Heinemann addition related to proof of vaccinations under businesses. It's not just that everybody has to have face masks, or they have to enforce the vaccination provision. And it will be without numbers 6 and 7 on page 5, and without the outdoor phrase in the paragraph that begins every person under section 1.
And number 2 and 3 will say unless the business satisfies number 11 above.
Correct. But otherwise, we didn't change the 11 exceptions.
That's correct. That's great.
Okay.
Correct is what I'm looking for, yes. Okay, so is there a motion to that effect? That a motion to approve this 13th resolution with the changes as Pope just stated?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, it passes 4-3. All right, next on our agenda is to consider a revocable license for St. Leo for the use of surplus municipal property on East Jackson Avenue. Mark Levy?
Okay, the last regular board meeting, the board voted to surplus the property on East Jackson to approve the license template and had a price per square foot for the newly created spaces on East Jackson. Since that time, I presented the proposed license and the drawings like this to all the restaurants along that stretch. There were 6 restaurants in total that I spoke to. As you recall, the price per square foot is based on 80% usage. So anything below 80% of that space could, if they decide to use less than 80%, they could result in a different price per square foot. So given all that, St. Leo already had a plan in place in their area C1. This was included in your packet. It was added pretty late. Their plan is not actually part of the license, but you can see what they're planning on doing there. They propose to use 550 0.7 square feet of the total 687.22 of the area C1 shown here, which is a total of 80.1%. The total annual license fee for St. Leo is $12,666.10. And we talked to some of the business owners, and we felt like that payment up front, given the fact that we're coming off the summer and they have an initial investment to make to get their places up and running, that it may be difficult for some of those restaurants. So this new license that's in front of you it's a monthly license, and this is the same thing we did previously. The total amount for St. Leo for this month is $1,055.51. So,
Question.
yes.
You can get monthly license, so each month that's gonna renew.
Yes.
Can we not do a 12-month license with a 12-month installment?
You could. Yeah, I mean, if you were doing a lease, you wouldn't get upfront all 12 months. You would be paid on a monthly basis. And that's just up to you all. If you want to tie them into 12 months, if they have a responsibility to pay for 12 months, but you allow payment to be made on a monthly basis, that's up to you.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I
So that's
think,
how you would do a lease. I mean, it obligates them to the total 12,000 for
Well,
the
it's that-
year,
it's
but
also,
they can pay the
you know, they-
monthly.
You know, I wouldn't like to pay my rent for January and February, but I've got to.
well, one of the reasons that we had said that it would be paid annually is just the bookkeeping and the trying to get payments from people and what have you. After talking to one of the restaurant owners, she indicated that, let's get started, and if the board would grant them the ability to pay monthly, that would be great. And then it may be that they pay the first 6 months monthly and then make a payment for the next 6 months, but let them get through this football season that they hope they'll make that money to be able to rent the
And
space.
there is a provision in here that it's a prorate, so if it's terminated by the board or they decide to opt out at any time, they get their fees back, so.
Sure.
Well, but the way it sounded at first was that we were giving them a monthly, each month they could sign up again, and we certainly don't
Just
want to do
pay
that.
monthly.
Yeah, we don't want to do that,
No, but
yeah.
in January and February, they may not want it.
It's an automatically renewing license where they pay.
Well, but I think that we need to think about the wording on that. I mean, I think we're saying it's an annual contract that can be paid in monthly installments.
It's an annual
Instead of-
license.
That's simple. Perfect.
And I did not know that the licensee, I'm sorry, I don't remember this in there, but the licensee had an option to cancel the license. We did, for any reason or no reason at all, because we're the licensor. But I thought the licensee, that the intent had been that you wanted them committed. If we're gonna allow that front to be changed and altered and plants put up and all that, we didn't wanna do that month to month to month to month. Maybe I missed that in the license, but I thought it gave us the right to cancel for any reason or no reason at all, because we're the licensor. They're the licensee, and they're tied to those conditions for a period of 12 months. They can renew them or not. And if you all want to say that we'll accept payment on a monthly basis, that's fine. But you need to decide, do you want to time in for a year? Because otherwise, you're exactly right, they'll cancel in December or January or any off month, or if basketball goes badly. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, I think it's a yearly license with 12-month installments.
That's what I thought.
I agree. And the licensee doesn't have the option of opting out.
So if we change it, can we get y'all to approve?
They have to have the option of opting out. I mean, if their business closes, if they move to a different location, you can't say they don't have the option to opt out.
Well, you all,
Well, that'd be like me renting an office space to somebody signing a 12-month lease, and then 6 months into it, say, I don't want that office anymore. They're still obligated to that lease. They can come to the board and request the
Okay.
license be
As long as
revoked
they
if
can
they're
come
moving, and they could make
I
that
mean, if
request.
they said, I'm moving to
and I
this
would
other
serve their
spot and I'm
moving.
gonna rent that spot instead, I wouldn't feel strongly they
Then we
should rent
could,
that. but-
then they can come to us and ask, and
you might say.
we can revoke it.
You spent a lot of money and you got an enforceable license against them, and maybe they're successful, will step in their shoes. But you may not want to let them out of that obligation just because they want to move after you all have made this property available. Anyway, that's a question for another day. Mark, what you're asking is, can the board approve the license with language to be changed by council to indicate that it is a 12-month license, but which may be paid on a prorated basis? We can certainly make that change, if y'all approve the license with that condition.
Okay,
That's a no-brainer.
okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? A quick change to consider in the University of Mississippi's request for banners to be installed on Jackson Avenue and University Avenue. Ben?
Thank you. We were working with council to finalize the revocable license that was approved in July by the board, which was for a total of 32 banners, 16 on University Avenue, 16 on Jackson Avenue. In conversations with the university, they've requested to make a couple minor changes. They would like to reduce the quantity of banners on University Avenue from 16 to 10. But they would also like to add 3 additional banners on Jackson Avenue on the south side. There are 3 street lights between Sorority Row and Gertrude Ford.
Is there a motion to allow that change?
So,
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. I just want to say that the decisions that this board is making are really tough ones, and I appreciate the community hanging with us. I know that there are frustrations by many, and there are frustrations from this board, and I've seen a lot of posts and received messages saying that whether or not I wear a mask doesn't affect anybody else. Why are you telling me to wear a mask? Well, if that were the case, we wouldn't be having this conversation. People not wearing a mask and spreading this virus at the rate that it is being spread is not only affecting them, it's affecting people that are having car wrecks, it's affecting people that are having heart attacks, it's affecting people that need to take their child to the ER. Today, we've had, as of right before this meeting, we've had 4 car wrecks today, 2 with injuries. You know, it is, it's a dire situation, and like I said, we are making these decisions based on data and based on advice from our medical providers, and we are charged as a board with overseeing public safety and this community's welfare, and we take that charge very seriously. I realize that there are some folks that will not take that seriously until it's them in the car accident or their child that needs to be in the emergency room, but this board does not have the luxury of taking that approach. We've got to all pull together for this to work. We need everyone to get vaccinated. We need you to help us by just the small inconvenience of wearing a mask until we can get our hospital. We're just trying to give them some breathing room, guys, and it's going to take all of us. So thank you to the board for 2 meetings in 2 days. Thank you for the decisions that are made. You know, we've done this once before. And like I said, we came out of it really well because we made tough decisions and we pulled together as a community. So having these things on paper is not what makes the difference, it's people actually doing it. So we ask you to please pull the rope the same direction, and we certainly thank all of our healthcare providers that are out there working to take care of us all. I'm gonna ask the board now to consider an executive session.
Make a motion to consider